Hello, it's Melinda from Scrapbooking Craft. Just thought I'd come on and film what I'm doing today. I'm actually putting some make and takes together for Paperific Show, and you'll probably see this video after Paperific because I don't think I'll get it edited and all that beforehand. But that's okay. If you're in the Melbourne area, Paperific is a 3-day craft show at the Melbourne Showgrounds in late August. I think it's the second last weekend. I'll put the link to the site below. And I offer a free little project to make and take, play with our products every year. So this year we are featuring Finnabar texture paste. I always do something that goes along with my chipboard or my stencils. So this year I've decided to feature chipboard pieces. So this is one of our new pieces we'll have at the show. These will be on our website soon. Hoping to get my website up to date with all my new products over my show break, which is November, December, January, possibly into February. Depends how long I can stretch out my break. So let's get started. First, we're going to take some black. This is just the packaging paper that comes in the back of all your packaging. So basically just going to take an off cut of that. Can I do it this way? Can I be skimpy? No, I can't. What I found is the texture paste works better and stands out a lot more on a black surface. So I'm just going to cover one of these manila tags, I can't talk today, with lovely purple glue stick, and then stick it on. So you could even utilise the packaging that your pieces come in. So just going to, oh, I missed the bottom. It's very clever, wasn't it? So sticking it as close to the sides as possible. Giving that a nice smooth press. My hands are all sticky now. So while that dries for a couple of minutes, we are going to paint our chipboard. So this particular piece of chipboard I'm going to do in the Rust Effects texture paste, which gives you this sort of effect, which gives you a really rusty effect. Excuse the shadowing, I'm missing my other light. I've blown the light globe and I haven't been out the store to replace it. So all of these paints come in a set of 3. So it is an acrylic paint, but it's an acrylic paint with a grit in it, like a sand. And what I tend to do is I will start with the darkest colour. They come in 3 colours, or this particular set comes in 3 colours. All of them come in 3 colours, sorry. So you've got a dark, a medium and a light. You can mix the colours throughout the sets. It's just these 3 the manufacturers have said, hey, these 3 colours go well together. So, but I have 3 sets available for the make and take, and we mix up all the colours. So this one's got sort of a deep red in it, a blue and a lighter blue. This one's purple, teal and the light blue, which is my favourite. Not so much into the rusty ones, but we get there. The best brushes to use with the rust paste I found is a nice stipple brush. So these are really cheap ones from the jeweler store. Not wanting like watercolour brushes or the soft brushes, you're wanting these hard sort of bristles. So I'm going to take the first colour. I usually start with the darkest colour. And I'm going to start with my biggest brush. And what I'm going to do is, when you dab into it, you're not wanting to stick your paintbrush right up into here. You're just wanting to basically dab to get a little bit on the edge of the paintbrush. And what I like to do is do a stipple effect. So instead of painting with a paintbrush, like usually you paint like this, you're more dabbing, like you were stenciling. Because if you swish with your brush, you tend to find the texture, you can do like a little swirly motion as well. If you brush, you're tending to brush the sandy grit off, and I'll bring it up and show you in a minute. So what I tend to do is pick my darkest colour or my more dominant colour I want and cover the entire base of the piece of chipboard. Doesn't matter if you miss little bits here and there. Because this is an acrylic paint, you can actually add a bit of water if your paint's getting a bit thick. To bring the paint back to life. So as you can see, I've done half of that. As I said, if you miss tiny little bits, I don't know, I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see the grittiness of it. There's a little bit of grit on it. So these are a thicker paint, so they're not like a fluid paint, so they are a bit thicker than like normal paints because they do have the grit in them. So as you can see, I'm not using much at all. Putting a lot of grit onto my table that I'll just brush aside. So when I'm happy with it, and we are going for the worn and the distressed look. As you can see down here, I haven't like completely covered the piece, but that's fine. What I tend to use is I use a different brush per colour. I don't like to wash the brushes, so what I tend to do is if I'm using 3 colours, I will have 3 different brushes on the go and then wash them at the end, just because I don't want the wetness in the brush. I'm going to grab this bit out of the lid. So this one is like the rusty red. This one you go about half. So again, stippling, and you want to go and cover about half of your piece. You're still wanting to see some of the deep colour, the brown colour, but you're sort of wanting to do about half coverage. There we go. And then with the third one, I like to put the lids back on nice and tight. It saves you spilling them or accidentally knocking over a pot as well. Now the gold for some reason is always very fluid and you need hardly any of this at all. I'm actually going to stipple off onto my scrap paper, and this one with the gold you're just going to do a dab here and there just to bring a bit of lightness into it. So the gold I put on about 25% of my work. It's really hard to see on here, so let's bring it up. You can see on the white paper it doesn't look as good, and I'll more likely zoom this in when I edit it. See how it just jumps on the black paper? So if you are a bit heavy-handed, say I'm a bit heavy-handed here on the H with my gold, I can take then my paintbrush, still got some paint in here, and dab it down a bit, just to take that bright intensity off if you don't want that bright intense look. So you can keep fiddling with these 3 colours until you're happy with the layout. And I think I'm happy with that. That looks really rusty. So as you can see, we used hardly any paint at all. So these paints do go a long way. Now we're going to come back to here. This has dried. We're going to quickly cut this out. Could always start with a black tag, but I didn't have any black tags, so we decided to use these manila tags. So this tag could be used in your scrapbooking, could be used to mount on the front of a card. It could be just used as a tag embellishment. You can use tags in a variety of different ways. So just quickly cutting, and I apologise if I'm out of frame. I have to have it quite close to my nose to see what I'm doing. So now we've got our black tag. I will go and punch that hole again, but I didn't actually grab my hole punch. Okay, so now we have a bit of burlap, and as you can see the burlap's got stitching either side. What we want to do is just cut down the side of the stitching, because we just want to fray it, because I'll just stick this down on our tag for a second. If I stuck that down, that looks rather boring, so we don't want that on there. So we just cut off the stitching edge either side. This is just a roll of burlap I picked up at, these come from Paperific originally, under their lucky door or lucky something. So then I just want to tease a couple of threads off, just to, and I'm going to utilise the threads, so don't throw those away. So tease a couple of each side. As you can see, I'm just pulling them out and tease a couple of each end. I tend to like to take about 3 or 4 off. Need a couple more on this side. See how it just adds to the look of it, and they come off quite, because it's woven, they come off quite well. I've pulled one too many off there, so I'm just going to trim. If you pull too many off, you can just trim your bits back. See how that looks really cool. So this is what our tag is going to look like, and what I like to do is utilise these fluffy bits and sort of just throw them before I stick my burlap down, so they sort of add a bit of fluff and texture. So we're just going to use a nice strong glue. This one's a craft glue from the reject shop. I just like it because it's nice and strong. This bottle's nearly empty, so we'll give it a good old shake off camera and see if it will come down the end. So what I'm going to do is, instead of trying to stick these down, I'm just going to stick my burlap over the top. We'll see if this glue is going to behave. I might have to get my new bottle. The only problem with this glue, and every other glue I've tried, once you get down to about 1/4 of the bottle, it doesn't like to come out. So instead of trying to stick, I think this bottle's nearly just about empty. Just going to get the last few little dots, have to do it two-handed. So instead of trying to stick all those little fibres down, I'm just putting a fair generous amount. This will dry clear on the back of my burlap. And then I'm just going to position it, and I'm going to offset it. And before I press it down, I'm just going to pull some of those little feathery bits out. And when you're happy, just hold it down for about 5 to 10 seconds with your fingers. Now the glue decides to spew out of the top. This glue doesn't like me some days. I'm just going to sit that upside down off camera, so it will all flow to the bottom and be a lot easier to use in a minute. So they'll be dry in about 30 seconds to a minute. And you can sort of tease these bits out. And if one falls out, let's just pick it up and shove it back under. I might have to add some more glue. I don't think I was as generous. Okay, when I glue a piece of chipboard like this down, I don't worry about getting glue on all the little fine bits. What I will do is aim for a big blob on the W, the H and the S. And don't ask me why it's W, H and an S. They were just letters that didn't have inners that sounded like a good idea at the time. Okay, so we're going to stick that down. We are going to go find our hole punch in a minute. So let's stick that down. So I'm going to aim for a good blob under the W, the H and the S. So when I'm sticking chipboard down, I aim for the fat bits or the bits that have a bit more grip. You can sort of run a bit on some of the lines, but you don't need to get it everywhere. That glue is definitely coming out a lot better now. I had it upside down. So let's keep that upside down. So then I'm just going to stick my WHS over the top. Give it a good press down. And I have to go find a hole punch. What we might just do is, for the sake of it, we're going to just do it with scissors today. Work out where my hole is. Give it more of a rustic look, pierce it through, and then we have just a bit of burlap. So the way I love to do these is you fold them over, so you've got a loop at one end and 2 tails at the other end. Pop your loop through, and then pass your 2 tails through, and this is a way of attaching without trying to tie a knot, and this will pass your 2 tails through and pull tight. So there is our little one of the little make and takes we're going to be doing at Paperific. Actually, I probably will try and get this video up before Paperific starts. I'll just have to get more organised, not a word I use well in my vocabulary. Thank you for watching, and I will be back shortly with the other make and take we've got as well. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.